We got more people to talk, and I'm more excited. It's going to be exciting to hear from anybody else. I think next up is Jen, right? Everybody, Jen from Bertrand! Come on up, Jen! And while Jen's coming up, I think most of you know logistics, like, you can get up at any time. We're adults. We have bladders and things, but drinks. But the bathrooms, if you go out this door, if you take a right, they're all the way down the hall. And there's some restaurants there, but in case you didn't know, but now you do. But with my bathroom introduction, I now give you Jen. Here you go.
You mentioned the awkward whenever I said, oh girl, I will take that awkward and raise you one more. I'm kind of excited to be here. I haven't been able to attend these before because I've always had to go to coach's clinic. I also coach cross country, which does overlap with one act, so things do get a little bit crazy. But because of that, we kind of have a little bit of a different schedule, a different way of doing things, and a lot of people have questions about that, so I think that's kind of why I'm here to give you maybe a different perspective on how things can be done or why they are done. Bertrand is a small Class D school. We bounce between, we've been C2 in the past, right now we're D1 or D2, depending on the year. So we probably have, I think we have, 55 kids in high school, give or take, in any given year. And we've had years where we've had almost every kid in high school involved, and then other years where, we maybe have 15 or 20. It just kind of depends on the year. Again, small schools, you get pulled into doing all kinds of things. I do cross country, one act, speech, and I also have the yearbook and other things. So sometimes my worlds kind of collide a little bit, and I was reminded of that when I was trying to find pictures for this, because when I'm busy doing play, I don't take the pictures I need for yearbook. It's somebody else that does it. I'm like, dang, I would have taken a picture of that. But so I maybe don't have as many pictures as I would. But being in a small school, and all of us deal with all of that, we know that necessity is the mother of invention, but the more you do this, you realize that there's a whole lot of creativity and knowledge that accompanies that as well. And as the knowledge comes along, we are able to take care of our necessities a lot easier. But I've been doing this for 30 years, and some of you probably understand this too, is the longer you do it, you're like, oh yeah, that's going to be okay. Yeah, we'll figure that out, that'll be okay. And contentment is the smother of invention. It kind of like, that complacency that kind of tends to come over the years can come into play. So basically, we try really hard to make the most of what we have to work with, and on any given year, that could change. So, next slide. We all know, unfortunately, time, money, and energy are all limited. So what we tend to do is we tend to focus on 4 basic areas when we assess what we have to work with for that year. Kids, script selection, set costumes, and time. Next slide. I'm trying to kind of look at this as I'm going because I'm winging this here. But kids, this is probably obviously the most important component to everything that we do with one act, and we all know this. The kids have to buy into that. They have to feel like they're part of something amazing, something bigger than themselves. We're all in this together. And that's something we try to perpetuate each year too. And recruiting, especially in a small school, is an all-year-round thing. These kids are in everything. They're busy. They're tired. They're in activities. When you teach them in the classroom, that's also a great way to recruit. I'll see kids, we're a farming community, so I'll see kids, working the hayfield out there. I'll be like, oh my gosh, hey, those bales looked great the other day. I saw you back up that trailer. I could use you for a tent crew. Different things like that. And it's funny because these kids will remember that. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I remember when you pulled up on the side of the road and you waved and said, hey, you can back a trailer. I'm like, oh, well, good, because I still like that. Things like that. I do teach middle school as well, so again, kind of like Carrie said, if you can learn to channel that squirrel energy, it's fire. they'll do basically anything you ask. They're so excited to be there. It kind of started off with younger siblings of some of the performers and things like that, and they come along and we just put them to work. And that's kind of growing, and we're starting to pull in more kids all the time with that. So again, she kind of covered that, but it's an awesome option. I try to even push our recruiting clear down into our elementary, not necessarily with, hey, come join us right now, but for years and years we did what we called a tour theater, where our kids, as part of their speech and drama class that they had with me as well, we would put on a tour theater, take a children's play, and we would work it during class, and then for their final, we would take that play on the road. And it's a lot of improvisational aspects to it, since it is children's theater, and we would go up and down the highway to the different schools and present our play. And our elementary kids for years and years said, well, I can't wait till I can do that, I can't wait till I can do that, I can't wait till I can do that. We haven't been able to do it the last couple of years since COVID because of scheduling and things like that. But I can honestly really tell that it's affected our program, and we're hoping to work that back into the schedule, because it really does make a huge difference in what we do. Okay, next slide. Script selection. Can't talk today. It's got to be a good match. For us, it works better to, I know a lot of you guys pick your plays in the spring, and you've got a lot of stuff that you do, and you are awesome, you are my heroes. But that doesn't work so well for us. We pick the play in the fall. We have a sign-up sheet, like that first week of school. Who's interested? Try to find out who's interested right now. We may have new kids that come in, things like that. We want to find out who's interested, and then we kind of take that general list and try to select a play based on who we have to work with. And some years we have way more to work with, and we can kind of plan, ahead. Oh, yeah, next year we can do this. Next year we can do that. But other times, especially when you're in a small school, D1, D2, you look ahead and you're like, wow, this is going to be some lean years here. And you've got to figure out ways to, distract. Hey, look over here, and all of those things, all of the bells and whistles. And that's okay. Also, some years, and I've kind of over the years tried to refer to them as, these are not necessarily going to be our most competitive years. Like, we may not win a state championship or whatever this year, but we try to be competitive every year. And those more difficult years, I try to call them investment years. We may, last year, for instance, there was a play that I had to go, oh man, this is great, I want to do this play, and I'm like looking at that going, okay, I don't have the kids for that. But if I work them here, get them some experience, I probably can do that play a few years down the road. And so some years we will pick a fluffier play or something like that maybe is going to be more fun, pull them in, do something a little crazier. It may not be quite as competitive as I would want it maybe to be, but I know that going in, and I know that I have different goals in mind when we do that. And that's okay. When you do it long enough, you realize that, okay, not every year is going to be that year, and that's okay. For example, last year we had, I had a great bunch of seniors. They're fantastic, and they're just kind of wild and crazy, whatever, but their attention span is like this. And so I knew we had to do something kind of fun, whatever. But I also looked ahead, and I really don't have a lot coming in. There's going to be a few years that are going to be pretty lean, so I needed to pull something in. And so instead of doing something really deep and fulfilling, we did Everyone Gets Eaten by Sharks. And the kids with my assistant coach is like, what are you doing? I'm like, I know, just trust me. And we had a ton of fun. We pulled the kids in. We had inflatable sharks running all over the stage, and got to districts, and we had a fantastic another school in there that was fantastic, and the boy in the striped pajamas, which, heartbreaking. Like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Well, and we darn near took down Hitler with those inflatable sharks. Won the war. So, our kids were so excited because it's like, you know, we hyped it up. It's like, okay, if you're going to beat Hitler, we got to be good. And they really bought into it. And there were so many younger kids that we pulled in because they're like, you got inflatable sharks? I'm like, heck yeah, we do. And they're like, all right, can I do one? Yeah. And pulled these kids in and they got involved. And I had one kid that, I mean, he has potentially as an older sibling that does something. Pulled him in, he was so darn excited about it. He just couldn't get enough. And by the time play was over, he's like, oh man, what about speech? I'm like, hey, let's do speech. He's a freshman. And he ended up placing at state as a freshman. And there's no way he would have done that had he not had inflatable sharks. So, I guess I'm telling you, if you struggle with that as a coach, it's totally okay to be like, hey, this is what's best for my kids this year. This is what my kids need this year in order to get that excitement built for the future. And when we do these, again, we tend to pick our plays then in September. And about mid-September, once we figure out what we want to do, we have to sell it. We want to keep the kids excited. We want to try to recruit as many other kids as we can for this. So we will take something to do with the play itself. Information, whatever. We'll have like a scavenger hunt around the building. Elementary kids, everybody's involved. It's like, hey, there are 17 rubber sharks hidden somewhere in this building. If you bring it back to me, you'll get a prize. Or we have trivia questions, things like that. A lot of times it involves things where they have to go look for something or look up something and then return it for a prize. But it gets the whole school involved, and it never fails. We usually end up with 2 or 3 other kids that didn't sign up that come in and they're like, hey, this really looks kind of cool. It's kind of fun. Can we be a part of this? I'm like, I can. So, and not everybody can be an inflatable shark, but we'll take you and all of that. So, this is probably the biggest part that we put into is script selection that way. As far as set and costumes and all the like, we have never really had a budget, which sounds awesome, but that doesn't really mean what you think it means. It just means like you don't spend so much to draw attention to anything. It's more of just like a stay under the radar. So we tend to reuse and recycle everything. We have a very small little room off to the side of the stage that we keep everything in. It's not a very big room, and after 30 years, you tend to collect things. And I tend to be a hoarder with that stuff. Oh, I might use that for a play someday, or I might need this. Try to keep it very organized and categorized when it comes to props and things, and then the costumes are kind of thrown together. But some years, we need to go out of our way to find certain costumes, things like that. Some years we have moms who really like to sew. So on those years, hey, we can pick totally different plays based on what we have access to. And then we'll keep those forever, and then we'll keep recycling them. And it's amazing, how pirate and Shakespeare costumes can all of a sudden go back and forth, things like that. We also utilize a lot of boxes, and we use a lot of panels. This started mainly because my assistant coach that I work with has a construction background, so I can have him build things, which sounds really great, but because he's like a total construction guy, he thinks he has to build things so the weight of the world could stand on it, and it's not, I'm like, oh, it just needs to stay there for 30 minutes, it's really okay, and stuff. But in order to make a connection for him, what made sense for him was using panels, and so that's kind of what we've evolved into using a lot of, is 4x8 panels. And the benefits of those are they travel really well, because you can stack them in the trailer, and because of that they can also store well, and we just keep reusing them. We reuse panels. We can only store so many, and then we have to start making decisions like, okay, that one's worn out. But there are some panels that we have that are 25 years old that, hey, you can pull that out and reuse that, or wait, where's that one from that year where we had the whole castle scene? It's like, oh, we painted over that, darn, But either way, we'll just paint a new one. So we do a lot of of that. And next slide, I'll show you this. This is what it is. It's basically floor underlayment. And when we started doing this, 25, 30 years ago, they were like $8 or $9 a sheet. So they were really affordable, and like the suits really like that. They're like, heck yeah, you mean how many, and if we use them vertically, 4 feet, there's only so many we can get across the stage, and it's totally doable. Now the price is like doubled to like $19, but again, we don't have to buy these every year. This is like, we buy them every so often, or maybe we need a couple more because something's like, oh yeah, the corners got chipped on that or whatever, and we kind of buy them as we need. So basically our expenses are royalties or whatever, and then paint a lot of times, and then everything else we pretty much we use. But we use these panels, but we do basically 3 different things with them. Next slide. The first one is we use them as like standalone, like a 4x8 panel. We can attach them to each other, things like that. I wish I had more pictures from back over the years, but I just really don't. So some of these are some from more recent plays. But you can see we can work them all the way across the stage if we need to, and build in doors, exits, windows, whatever we need into all of those things. And basically all we need is we get scrap lumber from the shop, kids, and we support the frame, and then we just make L brackets. And again, it's really easy to travel with and all of that. When we have kids that are really good with jigsaws, we can cut them out and do different things. Like those palm trees are still made with those same panels. And sometimes if we need more than 8 feet high, we'll just stack panels. Like you can see in the top left slide, where it is on the previous. We have 4x8 panels across the top as well, and we've gone up pretty high with some of these things when we've needed to over the years. And some years we've built in screens here where we projected things, and it really works pretty well that way. So next slide. The second way we utilize these is hinged brackets, and basically, like those scenes that you saw in the previous one, you can have a whole exterior scene, and then we have just pins that we put where the panels meet, and then we drop another panel on there. So when it's closed, you see this thing, and then we can open it up and have a whole other interior scene or a totally different scene, something like that. Depending on how we use them, you can have maybe something on the end here open up to an 8-foot wide something, or if you put the panels here and here, you can open this up for an entirely new full stage scene. So it really works pretty well, and it's easy to assemble. We basically just bring them in, we put the main flats up, and then just slide those on the thing, and then we're ready to go. So, next one. And the last way we use these are, we just call them spinners. We take 3 panels and create a triangle out of it. We brace the top with a 3-prong bracket and the bottom as well with a pipe in the middle of it. And then we have disc blades because that's what's available to us. And we weld a pipe onto that and then drop our triangle panels onto that. And the balance is key because we have a little marble at the top that they rotate on, and we can spin those. So these 2 plays that we did utilized the spinners. The top photo, we had a factory scene where they would go to work and do other things, and then we would spin those. And basically, if you're going to do that, you have 3 options pretty much, unless you divide half and half, then you can do more. We had that where we had the factory scene, we would spin it, and we had like I think it was a dance hall scene, and then we chose the third side to just simply be black. We were doing some theatrical effects and things like that. The tech kids really love these because they can sit back there and spin those all day long. Sometimes, we'll work that into the play. The bottom one we did a Wizard of Oz type play, and we had again, the 3 scenes we had there, we had the Emerald City, which you can see there, and then we also had like the Yellow Brick Road scene, and then we also had black on another side for effect. And when she's, you know, tumbling through the tornado or whatever, we let them spin it, so it was like all over, so it kind of created some cool chaos that they really enjoyed. It was really kind of fun. Those are tougher to travel with because we try to leave them as big as we can. We can take the panels off and fold them over, so they're still really pretty flat, but just the pipes and the discs are a little bit cumbersome, so we don't maybe do this as often, but sometimes the type of plate lends itself that way. So next slide. Time. This is probably where we're maybe less conventional with what we do and stuff. You know, the kids are really busy, they're in everything, you know, we're really busy, we're in everything, everybody's tired. And so what we try to do is, again, our time frames, we try to pick our play beginning of September, start selling it mid-September. We have tryouts at the end of September, and then October is when we start putting things together. There just really aren't very many nights available in October. There's just so many activities and games and stuff. There's usually maybe one evening. The last couple of years, there's been a second one that's kind of shown up off and on. So if we can utilize those evenings, we will. Otherwise, we pretty much use mornings. For the kids that are available, tech crew kind of have their own schedule where they come and go for what works for them. Sometimes our tech kids are kids that maybe aren't out for other sports, but they're kind of into this, and so they can work after school or whatever works. Try to get the set taken care of during the month of October, and we will also work on character development with kids. The kids are supposed to be memorizing at that point in time, and we'll find costumes and the like, and I will meet on some mornings with some kids, you know, 2 or 3 times in the morning, maybe for 30 to 45 minutes or so, and work on some scenes. Okay, hey, this is where we're going to have you guys work. We're going to go from here on this side, we're going to do this. Do some basic blocking of some of those smaller scenes. And then November is when we bring everybody together. Our big week is the weeks after sports are over, before basketball and wrestling start. I try to go to the athletic coaches early on and kind of try to get, says, hey, be real honest with me, how far do you think you're going to go this season? And they always know. They always know. They don't like to admit it. I'm like, I'm not telling a soul. And they're like, okay, you know, I think we can maybe make it to second round. I'm pretty sure. You know, but I don't know if we beat these guys. I don't know. But, you know, perfect world here. Or they'll be like, oh yeah, we're making it to state. Because look at our district. It's like, okay, great. I just need to know. I don't care. And we will be there cheering them all on. We'll be like, well, I hope you win the whole thing. But if not, we're going to have practice. Because we need it. So we do go after school on those weeks once the sports practices are done. We dibs that time. And the coaches are very gracious. They know that, you know, we don't want the kids to have to choose between any other, you know, high school activities. We want them to be able to do all the things. And in a small school, we have to share. And so we do have some good camaraderie and respect between the programs. They know that I don't want to step on their programs, and so they try hard not to step on mine, and it really works pretty well. But that's pretty much what we do. Our goal for the season is to have 12 practices, and that's it. And with that, that's the magic number for us. And on years like that, we have one state with 12 practices. We've you know, different things, and other years we just try to, you know, again, it's an investment year, we want to be competitive, but the kids know that I'm respecting their time. Everything that we have, I tell the kids, it's like, hey, here's a schedule at the beginning of the season. This is when we're working. Does anybody have any conflicts with that? I mean, check with your work schedules, check all these things. These practices are mandatory. And they know that. Early on when we first started doing this, you know, we had to let a few people go that didn't want to roll with it, but I haven't had to do that for years because they just know that's the expectation and they go with it. And they've kind of learned that, you know, I really do, I'm trying to respect their time, so they want to respect our time, and while we're here, this is what we're doing. We have a whole list of objectives for the night, and this is what we try to get done. And It's a little bit crazy, and I know it's totally different than what a lot of other people do, but that's what works for us. So next slide. Again, like I say, honestly, it's not for everyone. And you do you, boo. It's all good, but we just have to find out what works for us. We focus, and again, it's very condensed, and we focus on big characters, big enthusiasm, and we try to bring that early on. And so I see some of you judges out here that judge us early on in the season, and every time it's like, wow, that's so great, oh my gosh, I love this, but slow down, you're talking really fast, or I couldn't quite understand that. Please tell them that every time, because we know that that's where we're at. And one of the advantages that we pitch to the kids up here is it doesn't matter how much success we've had in the past. We've only had 12 practices, so you are the underdog. And it kind of buys into this, like, oh yeah, we got to work hard because they've been practicing all the time. Yeah, some of these guys start in spring, but not us. We only have 12, and they're like, oh yeah. So they kind of feed off of that, actually. But basically, we run off of pure adrenaline until we